All right, let's get into it. As the GM, this is the screen that I see when I log in, and I have under campaigns, I have a list of campaigns that I am being the game master for. I also would have a list of campaigns that I'm the player in. In this case, for this account, I have the Lost Temple of Shadows, which is what we created in our past tutorials, and I simply click on that to enter the campaign. As the GM, this is the screen that you will see. It has quickly a combat tracker up in the left-hand corner, a chat window in the left-hand bottom corner, the map that you see with all of your characters in the middle, and then on the right there's another pane that allows you to look at your book, which is what we're looking at now, or creatures. If we click on that, it'll go to one of the creatures that we have, and when I click on something in the combat tracker, it shows that creature, whether it's a character or a monster. We also have the log and a journal and a chat. You can have the chat up here as well as down here. So that's a quick review of this space. We're going to be going into a bunch of these different controls as we go, but I just wanted to hop over to the player's view to just show you what that looks like. So here's the player. This player actually has two different characters that are in this campaign. You'll see it here, the Lost Temple of Shadows, Lost Temple of Shadows. This other guy is not in a campaign. So a player has two different ways to jump into the campaign. They can either click on either of the characters that are in that campaign, or they can click on the campaign link over here. I guess I'll just do this one, and it loads it up. And it first comes to, if you have more than one, you'll come to a list pane here, which has a list of all of the players that are in this campaign. And you'll see a little star next to any character that you have control of. So Bolin and Siva are both controlled by this player. If I click on Siva, I get Siva's character, and I can move Siva around. I can also move Bolin around. But I will not be able to move, when I try to move any of these other characters, the whole map moves. And that is because I only have control over Siva and Bolin. All right. Also, if you click on Bolin on the map, you'll see Bolin's character sheet come up. If I click on Siva, her character sheet comes up. Perfect. We're all ready to go as the player. This player has two characters, like I said, and that's probably not the case in most cases, in most campaigns. But I just wanted to show that you can do that. You can have a player that has more than one character. All right, let's shift back to the GM screen, because that is where we're going to be doing all of our work. And of course, so in the campaign, there's going to be a lot of actually playing D&D, which is role-playing and discussion and stories and all that kind of stuff before you actually get to an encounter. So I'm going to fast forward through all of that, because that is up to you to figure out how to do. And there's lots and lots of materials online and lots of great YouTube content if you go looking for it. What we're going to go down and go right to is the first encounter. So in my book, I have the book tab open here. I'm going to go to my first chapter called The Enchanted Grove. Now, when I started up this campaign, I started it on this map, and I talked about this in my last tutorial. It's nice to just have some kind of map, so that when the players log in, they can see themselves on a map. But you don't want to have a map that shows them something like that's pertinent to the story yet. So I just have this sheet here that has some blood spatter and whatever for a little bit of effect. But as soon as we get to this first encounter, so we're going to, the players are going to find themselves searching for a passage through this glade or a grove in the forest. And they've been told that they need to get somewhere to go fetch something through this forest, but they need to go through this very specific spot to be able to find it. And they're looking for someone to bring them there or to allow them to go through. That's all they really know, and they're marching through this forest. So at this point, I might decide to bring up the map because I have a map of that glade that we did in the other tutorial, and I've linked it right up here in the Enchanted Grove. I have a little link to it, and there's the map. As soon as I click this, it's going to bring up the map. And you need to know that the players will also see that. So you can't do it, secretly. As soon as you bring it up, it's going to pop up, and they're going to be able to see it. So we're going to go ahead and click on the Guardian, which is the map link that we had, and there comes the map. Now, none of the players are on the map. It's the first thing to solve, but maybe even before that is the Fog of War effect. So you as the GM have got to decide whether you're going to do Fog of War at all, or how you're going to deal with it. The controls up here in the right-hand corner of the map allow you to control the Fog of War, and there are tutorials on how to use it. I very often will use just the paint. If I paint on here, it might show like this, and I might show them a little bit of the glade, kind of like this. But let's go look at what that looks like for the player. So for the player, it looks like this, and maybe that's realistic because that's all they see, but it doesn't really give them a great feel for what they're in. And they already know that they're in a forest, and by showing them the rest of this map, I'm not giving them any real information. I mean, all of this stuff is just trees, and there's some rocks that they'll be able to see. So in this case, I'm going to simplify this tutorial a little bit and just say clear all fog. And so that makes it so that when the player, I'm going to switch back to the player here, when the player comes in, they're going to be able to see the whole map. They're going to be able to zoom around, look at stuff. Okay, looks great. And that's fine for this encounter. If you're in a dungeon, obviously you don't want to show them the whole dungeon. If you're in a house, you don't want to show them the whole house. You're only going to show them pieces of it unless they've been there before, and you might want to undo the Fog of War there. That's all Fog of War theory. And we're going to skip over that by just clearing all of it. Back on the DM screen, the next thing to solve is bringing your characters onto your map. I'm going to go back up to the selector here, and I'm going to click on my map kind of where I think that they would be when the encounter might start to be possible. So I'm going to click right there, and there's an option here to huddle characters. You can also huddle monsters. We don't have any monsters right now. Huddle characters will take all the characters in your character list, and it'll huddle them where you clicked. So I do that, and there they all are. I can zoom in, and I'm going to put it on the move selector here, and there they all are. And now, once I've brought them onto there, I might actually put them give them a little bit of space because they probably aren't right on top of each other. And I also personally like to put them in a square unless we're playing completely free form. But then I might talk to them and say, well, who's going to be in front, who's going to be in back, and they can move themselves around and get a feel for where they are. Okay, so they're ready for this first encounter. Now, if you went and looked at this other tutorial, the first encounter is a guardian. It's a big treant, and he's not an enemy, but he is not trusting of the characters, and he won't let them through. If we zoom all the way out here, there's a passage that goes through here, and they kind of have to go through there to get where they're going, and this treant is not trusting of them, and it presents their first obstacle. But this is not a combat encounter, and I know plenty of people talk about this, but this first encounter is not a combat encounter. It's just meeting this treant and talking to them. So to start it, when I created this encounter, I made the guardian invisible. So I can actually start this before they start coming into this glade. I can go ahead and click on this little dragon here and click on the guardian. The other way to start an encounter, I'm just going to go quickly here. I have a pin here called the guardian. When in their tutorial, we attached all 3 of our encounters to this pin. So if I click on this pin, you can see I could say start encounter, and it would give me the option to do the Guardian, the Enchanted Spirits, or Nature's Challenge, which are the 3 encounters you see here. And we linked those in the other tutorial. There is yet one more way to do it, and you can go up to the start button up here and say start, and you could say planned, and you could find the Guardian. Here's my 3, the Guardian, Enchanted Spirits, and Nature's Challenge, right in this encounter list, and you could start it that way. I almost never use the start button personally. I usually use the pin because I'm kind of visually a map person. And I would start the encounter, and then I would click on the Guardian. But in this case, I'm just going to go to the book because I'm kind of trying to follow the book. And I'm going to click on that little dragon, and then I'm going to click on the Guardian, and that starts our encounter. Now I can zoom out a little bit and see there's the treant and a treasure token. And you can see here up in our combat tracker, we have added a treant, and it automatically rolled initiative for the treant as we added him. And it added this treasure 1. The treasure 1 is hidden, and the treant is hidden. So the players, if we switch over to the player screen right here, you're going to see that the players see nothing. There's no treant here. Perfect, because treants have that thing where if they're not moving and they haven't yet talked to you, they look like a tree. And so this map, what they see now is perfect. They just see a bunch of trees. So as they enter, and at this point, I am going to move the group, and I'm going to show you one little nice option here. If you click on Move Group, you'll get this little icon in the middle of your group, and it's the same color as this. And you can click this and drag it, and you can put them wherever you want. And so I'm going to put them kind of in the middle of this glade, and then I'm going to turn off Move Group. I don't like to clutter up with too much stuff, so I'll just turn that off. If I ever need to move the group again, I can click on it real quick and bring it up. I'm also going to turn off this Guardian pin just to clean it up and make it look real nice. And with that, I just disable locations. So I click on that, and the pin goes away. Now, if you've ever lost your pin, make sure you turn on locations, and your pins will come back. There we go. Okay. So the players are walking into this grove, and suddenly a tree on the far east of the grove starts to move, and you realize that it has eyes, and it starts to talk to you. And so at this point, I would unhide this treant, and I can either do it up here in the combat tracker, which is really nice. I can click on this, and now he is unhidden. Or if I just hit him again, I can click right on him and just say show. So whenever you click on a monster or character, it gives you a whole list of things you can do. Okay, so we've just hidden him, and the players and the treant start to talk. And as the GM, I'm obviously acting as the treant and talking to the characters. And at this point, they may, as soon as the characters start to try to negotiate with this treant to get by, I would start my second encounter. If I switch back to my book by clicking this tab, when they start to try to negotiate with this ent, these enchanted spirits, the pixies, are going to come out, and they're going to start to cast spells on these characters. Now, when we created this encounter the first time, we created it for a bunch of players that are 5th level, and these are all 3rd level. So as I start these encounters, and very often, unless you're really on it, you're going to be adjusting the encounters to work for the players and the characters that you have running in this session. I'm going to go ahead and start Enchanted Spirits while they're talking to the treant. I click on the little dragon. I start the encounter by clicking on the encounter, and now you can see that these 5 pixies have showed up. You can also see that these 5 pixies have been added to the combat tracker. Notice that when we created the encounter, we also made these hidden. So these are hidden. The players don't know about them. They won't know about them. you can play this whole encounter and never even engage them, and never use them. They're just up here in the combat tracker because they're on the map as well. Also notice that as they were being placed onto the map, they automatically rolled their initiative, and they all have the same initiative. That is because the settings for the campaign, if we go up to the gear icon and we look at settings for this campaign, you'll see group monster initiative. So that means that each time monsters are added onto the map, they all get the same initiative. So you notice that we loaded the Treant and he got a 19, and then later we loaded Pixies and they all got the same. They all got 15. That's because we have that group monster initiative. If you don't like that, you can say all monsters get their own initiative and everything will roll its own initiative just like the characters would. We have the Pixies on there. They're all invisible. The players are talking to the Treant and you're talking back. And now you have these Pixies and they're all invisible. At this point, I'm going to make a call here and say we don't need 5 Pixies. We've got 5 third level characters, and maybe these are new players. I'm going to whittle this down to just 2 Pixies. And so to do that, I can either click on this and click delete. So I clicked on the downward arrow next to the Pixie and then said delete, and that Pixie went away. Or I can just go click on the Pixie itself and say delete. And I think I'm going to do that for those 3. And so now I have 2, and I'm going to move them to be about where I want them to be. I'm going to put them actually in a box here, in a square. And at this point, it's up to you, GMs, how you want to play Pixies. If they're flying, they're going to be making noise, and so even though they might be actually invisible because they have greater invisibility, and if you click on one of the Pixies, you can see that right. Oh, greater invisibility, perfect. Self only. So they may have cast greater invisibility and they may be invisible, but the players would be able to hear them. So you could do stealth rolls at this point. And you could have this Pixie go ahead and roll a stealth roll, and it did not roll well. It rolled a 1, so they definitely know that there's a Pixie around. At that point, you could continue to have them invisible because they have greater invisibility. They can actually attack while they're invisible. I'm going to make them visible as soon as they realize that they've been noticed. They're going to turn visible, and they're both going to turn visible. So now our characters are trying to talk to this Treant, and these Pixies show themselves, and they look as though they are getting into mischief. At that point, I would finally say the words, "Why don't you roll for initiative?" As a GM, you can see the initiative for each one of your players right here. You can actually set it by clicking on this and setting it to whatever you want. Or you can say, roll for initiative, and the players then would roll for initiative. They roll for initiative by doing the following. This is a player. This is Siva, I believe. Yep, Siva. And all they need to do is go to their initiative box on the character sheet and click the die, and they will roll initiative. Now, as a GM, I will see their rolls here in the chat. I will also see that Siva has a 6 now for initiative. I also want to point out one thing. I rolled the stealth check for that Pixie, and it was hidden. You'll see that it has an eye with an arrow through it or line through it. Down here, that's my current setting. As a GM, I can make it so that my rolls as the GM are hidden or not by clicking, obviously, this button. And then you can show them the roll details, which is everything. You can show just the die, or you can hide the roll completely. Right now, we're hiding rolls, and I personally just like to give them the details. Some people might not like seeing the details because when you see the details, they will actually see the +7 here and go, holy moly, he's really good at stealth. Whereas if you just do the die roll, it would be just the die. You can also unhide a roll that has already happened if you didn't mean to hide it by just clicking that little eye on the actual entry and clicking show roll details. And then you will see, as we shift back to the player, you'll see that they now see both of them. Okay, we need all the other characters to roll their initiative, and what I'm going to do as the GM is I'm going to click on each one of them. I'm going to click on their initiative roll, which you can do. You can roll anything you want on their character sheet for them. Obviously, rolling dice in DM for the players is probably the one thing that they love to do. So don't generally do that. I don't generally do this too much, but I'm going to go ahead and roll it for each one of these players. And finally, Tordek. Okay, we've rolled initiative for everybody, and we see Garth. Garth. Garth has the best at 21. He'll actually get to go first. Now we know that. But before we get going, I want to explain one thing, and that's this number up here. As you create your encounter in the combat window, you will see all of your characters, fine. You'll see all of your monsters, fine. This calculator right up here is using the D&D CR system to figure out what number of XP these monsters are, and the red means that this is going to be a deadly encounter. Now, as the GM, I might look at that and say, oh no, I've set this wrong. But in this case, I know the treant is actually not going to attack them. He's just there to talk. So I can set the treant. I could set him to be friendly, or I can set him to be inactive. Inactive is a better thing to do because that puts that treant down here in the inactive area. It removes all of his XP from the calculation, and now we see 200 XP. Perfect. That's each pixie must be worth 100 XP, and there's only 200, and we have 5 third-level characters. Blue means that'll be pretty much a cakewalk. Now that I've explained that, and the pixies now have their initiative, the treant has its initiative, the characters may still be trying at this point to talk to the treant, but the pixies have other plans. And I would say once I had them roll for initiative, I'd say, okay, Garth, you have first go. It looks like these pixies are getting ready to make some mischief. But like, I'm not going to make it so that they're like they don't have their bows out and they're about to shoot them, but they look like they're about to bother them. So I'd give Garth the ability, the chance to do something. And if we go to Garth, I clicked on Garth's character. I'm just going to center them in these boxes. And it gives me this character sheet. Now, obviously, the player would decide what they're going to do, right? And Garth being Garth, he's a Lightfoot halfling snake oil seller level 3 rogue. He's not about to go attack something before they attack him. So he's going to hang back and I think probably take the dodge action. Now, to take the dodge action in Shard is really easy. You just say to your GM, I'm going to take the dodge action, and you're done. Oh, I forgot one of the most important parts about the combat tracker is keeping track of the turn. You'll notice we're at round 0. As I click down on this button, on the turn button, that's the next, that's the previous. You'll see that it points to Garth. It's now Garth's turn, and Garth can see that because he's got a box around him. Here's another thing in Shard that's very cool. You'll notice, I'm going to switch over to the players side so you can see exactly what the players see. The players don't have a combat tracker. So how do they tell who's first, who's second, who's third? If you zoom in a little bit, you'll see that each character that is active has a number next to it. Garth is 1. These pixies are 2 and 3. Then we've got Tordek, Siva, Bolin, and Mordan. So they can tell just by looking at the map what order everyone is in, and they can look at, like, if I'm Mordan, I can say, okay, Bolin's next before me, so I have to be ready to go after Bolin. But they don't get the list like the GM does, because they've got all that information just right here on the map. Good enough. So Garth, like I said, is going to take the dodge action, and it's going to go to the first pixie. And now the players are waiting to see what does this pixie do. Well, these pixies are really trying to cause mischief, and they are going to cast a couple things. This first pixie is going to cast Entangle. So Entangle, if I go, this is the character sheet. It has all of the different spells it can do. Once per day, it can do one of these, and it's going to cast Entangle. So when I click on Entangle, it gets me a nice description of Entangle. It's right out of the SRD. And it gives me this box here that says Add to Chat. This allows me as the GM to add that to the chat. I click on that, it gets added down here. And I do that for a couple reasons. One, it's so that I don't have to go to the pixie to click on Entangle and see what the spell is. See, if you go ahead and go down here and click on Entangle, you can see what the spell looks like and read all the stuff you need to. You can also quickly do a spell token. There's a spell tag and a spell token, and they're important. The spell tag I'm going to assign to that pixie. So I have the pixie selected, and I click on the spell tag, and it gives me these options: apply condition, tag, entangle. I'm going to apply that to the pixie. The reason I am doing this is to see that this pixie here in this combat tracker has cast Entangle, and it's going to last for 10 rounds. This is a concentration spell, so we have to keep track of who's concentrating and where it came from. So we know this pixie cast it. He's got 10 more rounds. Now we're going to see the spell token. This spell token, and I want Entangle, gets plopped on the map, and you can move it around. This is the affected area of the spell. And if I plop it right there, it's going to affect everyone. And that's who they would love to just entangle everyone. So they're going to plop it right. Actually, I'm going to plop it right there. Now we have to do some saving throws, right? So if we click on Entangle and quickly read this, we see that you must succeed on a strength saving throw or be restrained by the entangled plants. So each one of these players needs to do a strength saving throw. If they do not make that strength saving throw, then they will be restrained. Once I have placed that spell token to see who's affected, I then need to roll a saving throw for each one of the players needs to roll their saving throw. And so I would, as GM, ask each one of the players, please roll a strength saving throw. And of course, this is for them to do. So we're going to go ahead and click on Garth first. And Garth, now I'm doing this as a GM, but obviously the players would be doing this. He's going to roll his strength check. There we go. There it is. Tordek is going to roll his, Siva, hers, Bolin, his, and Mordan. So now if I scroll this up a little bit, I can see that they got a 12, 19, 13, 5, and 13. And if I look a little, I'm going to scroll up here and look at Entangle. I don't need Entangle. I need the Pixie. When I go to the Pixie, I see the spell save is DC 13. So they have to make a 13 or higher, which a couple of them did. 1, 2, 3 of them did. So Garth, unfortunately, has been affected by Entangle, and so he is restrained. To indicate that he has been restrained, I click on Garth. I can either click on his character on the map and say add condition, and then I've already done this, so it's coming up here as something that I recently used. But you could also pick condition and click on restrained and save. And duration is 10 rounds. Save. And now Garth has been restrained and he's for 10 rounds. And who else didn't make it? Oh, Bolin. Bolin, I'm going to go up here to Bolin. Click on Bolin and then add condition. And I'm going to go straight to, oh, here's perfect. I just, the restrain for 10 rounds. I just click it, just like I did before. And now we can see clearly in the combat tracker that the Pixie cast Entangle, 10 rounds. Garth will be restrained for 10 rounds unless he gets out. Bolin will be restrained for 10 rounds unless he gets out. You'll also see that on the map, Garth and Bolin have little indicators to tell you that there's a condition that is on their character. The other thing that I want to show you on the players, I'm going to go to Bolin because Bolin is one of the characters that this player can see. If I, as a player, look at my character sheet, just right down here, I will see a list of conditions. And I can see clearly that I am restrained for 10 rounds. I can click on this restrained as a player and see what that means while the normal game is going on. I can read right here, or I can go to my player's manual, whichever you want to do. And then I can edit duration or hide indicator. Those are two little things you can do just by clicking on the 10 rounds. And then if the GM ever tells you you are no longer restrained, you can go ahead and end the condition, or the GM can do it from his end or her end. Okay, so Pixie number 1 has cast a Entangle. It has entangled 2 of the characters. 3 of the characters were able to escape. Now this spell token I'm going to leave there because if you read Entangle, it also says that this is difficult terrain. So now that 20-foot square is difficult terrain, making it difficult to move in. So they have to spend twice the number that they normally do to move through that terrain. Perfect. And that Pixie is, they move a lot. So I'm just going to have them kind of moving around. That one's going to move. And now it's going to be the next Pixie's turn. You can see that the box moves to this next Pixie. The arrow moves to this next Pixie. And this Pixie is going to cast Confusion. Because why not, right? This stuff happens all the time. This one's a little bit different because this one has not only a condition that gets applied, it's a condition that is a confusion condition, and each turn they're going to have to take a D10. But it starts out the same way as that other one. We go ahead, we click Confusion, and we click on Add to Chat. The players can see that it's been added to chat, and I can close this now, and I can put the spell token down. So for this one, Confusion, this one I would place here, and I would say, you clearly are all within the circle. But since this is an instantaneous casting, I would then go ahead and delete that spell token. I don't need it anymore. I know that they're all affected. So I would then again ask all of them to roll a wisdom saving throw. So again, we're going to go through each one of these and throw a wisdom saving throw. Obviously, the players would be doing this, not me, the GM. And this is when everyone gets excited about not making it or making it. Now let's see how they did. Okay, 3 of them made it again. It looks like Siva and Bolin did not. So in this case, we now have confusion in the chat window. We're going to do a spell tag. We're going to not apply it to Mordan. You got to be careful there. I had Mordan selected. I want to make sure I select the Pixie. We're going to then create a spell tag for the Pixie to keep track of the fact that he has cast Confusion for 10 rounds. And we've already done the spell token. We don't need that. Now, to add this special condition to the players, you'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead. Who didn't make it? Siva and Bolin. So Siva, I'm going to come down here and say add condition. I'm going to do a custom condition. The condition name is confused. The duration is 10 rounds. There we go. Because this is not a normal condition. I should have even shown this. If I add a condition and then pick a condition, there is no confused condition. We have to create this new one called confused 10, and then Bolin also did, and so we're going to add a condition, and we will just look down here, confused for 10 rounds. Perfect. So now Bolin is confused and restrained, Siva is confused, and Garth is restrained. And we can see on the map who has conditions assigned to them and who doesn't. So Mordan and Tordek are perfectly happy. This Pixie's also going to move. He's going to float over here. They're kind of just doing a circle around them. Doesn't really matter. And that Pixie's turn is done. So we finally get to the first character to take a turn. Tordek is the next one to move, and he has no conditions. I can tell that just by looking at his token, or if I look over in his character sheet, I can see that he does not have any conditions. They would be in here. So Tordek, what Tordek is going to do, because he is a dwarven barbarian, he's going to rage. Because what else does a barbarian do? How do we do rage with Shard? It's really simple. You come down here. You can click on actions, which will go straight to the actions section of his character sheet, and there is rage. It is a bonus action, and he has 2 uses of it in this today. He is going to go ahead and use it. So as soon as he uses it, you'll see that his damage in all 3 of these, actually all of them, I believe, went up by 2. So now he is raging, and his damage was automatically adjusted. That's his bonus action. He's going to sprint over here. Now that's 10, 15, 20, 25. He can make it. So he's going to use his great axe. Our first melee attack. He has his great axe in he has a 2-handed grip. If I click on this 2-handed, that unequips it, and I could take his hand axe and that put it in his primary hand, and I could put another hand axe in my offhand. That's OH and PH. Or he already had equipped his great axe with 2 hands, so that's what we're going to use. He's right next to this Pixie. He's ready to go. He's got his rage on. He's going to go and roll. So how do we roll? We just go to the hit column of the weapons, armor, and tools section, and we pick what we're going to hit with, this great axe, and we roll it by clicking. That rolled an 18. And I know the Pixie's armor class. If I look up here real quick, the Pixie's armor class is a 15. This is the armor class section of the combat tracker. You can quickly see everybody's. So that definitely hit this Pixie. And I'd say that's a hit. Your great axe comes down with a vengeance. Roll for damage. And they simply, whoever's controlling this character, would roll in the damage column and click on damage, and it rolls a d12 plus 5, giving 17 points of damage to the Pixie. Now we have to apply, as the GM, we have to apply this damage to our Pixie, and there's a couple of different ways you can do it. If you are acting as that Pixie, I might have already, like I wouldn't have Tordek up, I would have the Pixie because I'm the GM and I act as the Pixie. If I have the Pixie up, I can come down here into the chat window and click on the 17. And you'll see whoever's selected will come up, their name comes up here, and you can either apply damage, half damage if there happen to be a saving throw or a resistance, heal, that can be healing if it's 17 hit points, or 10 hit points of 17. Obviously, this is damage, so I would click on damage. Other and possibly quicker way to do this is to just click right on the Pixie on the map, and there's a section here, there's the damage and heal section, which says Great Axe damage 17 or Great Axe half damage 8. And that's just if he has resistance or something. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this Great Axe damage 17, and you will see his hit points go from 7, oh no, to nothing. And that, if we zoom in here, that Pixie is dead. And you can describe it however you want. Obviously, it's fun to give that player how do you do this kind of thing. But that was pretty awesome to see the Barbarian just go, no, I am not taking any of this entangling or confusion, and I'm just going to go and slice down this Pixie, and the Pixie's dead. But unfortunately, slicing down a Pixie dead has consequences. And the treant sees the Pixie die and gets angry. And this starts the third encounter. Now, this third encounter is called Nature's Challenge. The treant is going to create a number of living trees. I think there might be undead trees, but and I know when I created this counter, I created it with 4 of these trees, and I know that that's going to be too much. So I want to quickly edit it. Now, if I was a good GM, I might have done this beforehand. I know how many players are coming in, but maybe the players gave me maybe we're missing a couple players and I need to change it. I also know that when I start this encounter, they are going to show up and be visible. So I don't want to click on this and have 4 show up if I only want 2 to show up, which is what I really want. So I would very quickly go and edit this encounter. And it's really actually easy. If you go to locations, click on the pin that has the encounter, and you view the encounter and you view Nature's Challenge, I can very easily just make 2 of them invisible. And so when I start this encounter, 2 of them will show up, and then I could just delete the other 2. Or I could go ahead and delete these 2, but I don't want to change the book that much. So I'm just going to close it like this. So I just made 2 of them invisible, and now I'm going to start my challenge, my encounter, Nature's Challenge. And there's the 4, but these 2 are invisible. I'm going to do a couple things as a cleanup. I'm going to turn off locations to clear that pin that was right there. I'm also going to go ahead and just delete these 2 that are invisible. And then I would describe to the players the consequences of killing a Pixie are immediately visible as 2 massive trees turn, and you see their angry faces, and they seem to be coming for you, Tordak. Now, when I created those 2 awakened trees, you see that their initiative was rolled automatically, and it looks like they have high initiative, but they came in late, so everyone else is going to get a turn before them. Now, obviously, GMs you can do that differently. If you think if they had high initiative and we're already in the middle, then maybe they get the next one. It's up to you. But this shard automatically rolls the initiative for you. You can see they have quite a bit of hit points, so they're going to be very hard. And actually, I've designed this, I hope, that at least one player dies so that you can see, so we can go through that. And yes, we will get there. I promise, I promise, I promise. And you'll also see up here that this XP went from being 200 to being 1100. And this is now a hard. I mean, it goes into, or maybe red is deadly, I think it is. So let's see how this goes. Tordek is done with his turn. We've just described the trees coming to life and looking very angry. Now it is Siva's turn. Now, Siva has a condition, and actually for this one, I'm going to switch over to the player's view and pick up Siva. So the player that's controlling this character is looking. This is what they see. They just saw these two trees pop up. They can zoom out to kind of see them a little bit better. They know that they have a condition that is confused, and they might say, well, what does that mean? And the DM, you could describe it in two ways. You can tell them that they can read about it by scrolling up to the confused spell here that was cast, or you can do it. And I like to do it because I don't want them to be reading the spells. So I scroll up here and I click on confusion, and I get the sheet up here, and I said, okay, you are now confused. So at the start of your at the start of your turn, you're going to roll a d10, and that's going to determine your behavior. And so at the end of your turn, you'll be able to roll another wisdom saving throw to see what happens. And it's possible that you can move normally, but it's also possible that you just start running away. So, hey, Siva, roll a d10. And so over on the player's screen, Siva says, well, how do I roll a d10? Because we haven't rolled a die yet. Down here at the bottom of your chat window, there's a nice little decahedron down here, and you're going to click on that. And then, what did they say, a d10? Okay, I roll a d10. I just click on it, and you can click all sorts of different ones, whatever order you want. And then you click roll, and it rolls the d10. And I happen to know this is not good for Siva. A 2 means the creature doesn't move or take any actions in this turn. So guess what, Siva? We skip you. That's too bad. But Siva does get to roll her wisdom saving throw. So she says, okay, fine. It's the end of my turn. I'll roll my wisdom saving throw. Ugh. I got a 5. Sorry, Siva, that's not going to do it. It is now Bolan's turn. Okay, Bolan. Bolan's confused and restrained. This is going to be a little complicated. First, Bolan, go ahead and roll a d10. I'm going to do this from the GM screen, but obviously the player would be rolling these. They would click on the die, click on the d10, roll it. They get a 3. I, as the DM, would scroll up to confusion, see what a 3 is. The creature doesn't move or take any action. Sorry, you don't take any action, and you can't move. They're also restrained, Bolan is. And if I look at the details of restraint, while I'm restrained, I can't move, and attack rolls against me have advantage. So since I can't take any action as Bolan, Bolan would be done, but Bolan at least gets to take the confused saving throw. So that's a wisdom saving throw, and it looks like he does make his saving throw. He got an 18. So at this point, I'm going to say congratulations, you are no longer confused. And you come up as the GM, you can come up in here and click on the confused 9 and click end. Or as the player, the player can come down here and say end, and that will end confusion. I guess I'll do it as the player, this one. I click on end, and that condition is gone. It's now the end of his turn, and he's going to make his strength saving throw, which hopefully he makes. He's got a +3. Yes. He absolutely tears himself away from the entanglement and is no longer restrained. I can mark that by clicking on restrained and say end, and it is gone. It's off his character sheet, and he no longer has a little icon next to him. He's ready to go, but for next round, sorry. All right, Mordan, you are unencumbered. You have no conditions assigned to you. What do you do? Mordan is a druid. So of course, what is a druid going to do the first chance they get? But they're going to wild shape. So Mordan is going to use his action to wild shape. I click on use next to wild shape, and it comes up with this great little screen to pick a monster. Now, before we go there, he is level 3. And if we look at the wild shape rules, at second level, up until 4th level, I can only use a 1/4 CR creature. Knowing that, when we go and use wild shape, you'll see that the only selections we have are CR0, CR1/8, and CR1/4. That is exactly what we needed. And now all he needs to choose is what he's going to be. And oh, look, Giant Badger, that's what I wanted to be. And it's already checked perfectly for me. And I'm going to go ahead and pick monster. When I pick monster, it changes my token to be a badger. Zoom in here, you can see my little badger token. You'll see up at the top of my character sheet, it says shape giant badger, and it gives me a link to revert shape. It also changes my hit points to be the badger's hit points, which is important. We have this new section in our character sheet that says shape change abilities for giant badger. We have keen smell. That's great to know. And then we have multi-attack for actions. So we can actually take 2 bites or 2 claws or a bite and a claw. And that's just what we're going to do. This badger is going to run out of here. So this is, 10, 15, 20. I believe he can run 30 feet. And I can burrow 10 feet if I wanted to. He's going to run over to this Pixie, and assuming that the Pixie is low enough to attack, and I would have figured that out beforehand. If the Pixie's flying at 20 feet up, then yeah, obviously he's not going to be able to get him. But let's say the Pixie's flying right above the ground. He is going to go ahead, Mordan is going to attack this Pixie with his special abilities in the shape change area. He's going to do 2 bites. To do the 2 bites, we click on the little dice with the +3 to hit, and we get a 17. Now I know that hits the Pixie because we said the Pixies have an AC of 15. And we describe the hit, the bite. It's a horrible bite, and he gets 3 points of damage. And then I'm just going to show you the second bite. 15 also hits, and so he rolls for damage again. Now he's got 2 damages up there. A 3 and a 3. They could have been different. That would have been nicer. But we're going to go to this Pixie and click on it. And you're going to see the last few damages listed. Giant Badger damage 3. And if it had been different, this Giant Badger damage 3 would be giant whatever. You know what I'm going to do? To make it so that you can see that they're different, I'm going to re-roll one of the dice. I just want to show you that you can re-roll a dice. You just click on the die. It brings up this Giant Badger roll, and you can click any die to re-roll. Re-roll it like that. I just re-rolled it, and I rolled perfectly. I rolled a 3 + 1, which is a 4. Now I can go up to the Pixie, and it'll show me that I have 2 different damages that I can apply. So I would do the first one, and then click again and do the second one, and it applied both of them. Those both equaled 7, and that Pixie's dead. Boy, these guys made good work of these Pixies. So both Pixies are dead, but these trees are no joke. Mordan is going to stay there, and that's the end of his turn. So now it is Garth's turn. And Garth is very upset because he didn't do anything his first turn. He just took the dodge action, and now he's restrained. So he can't move, and Garth is a rogue. That's what we said. And that rogue, let's see. He wants to go run up to one of those trees and attack him, but because he's restrained, he's not going to be able to. He's unable to attack or unable to move. So I would say, oh, look at that. He had a dagger in his hand. Anyway, he's going to drop his dagger, and he's going to get his short bow out, and he's going to shoot at this tree from a distance. Now, yes, I'm allowing him to drop that dagger, and as a GM, make sure whenever anyone drops anything that they go pick it up later. To determine how far away this is, you long click on the character or wherever on the map, and then drag to find out how far. Now that's 40 feet. That's well within my short range for the short bow. So I uncheck that, and he's going to stand there with his short bow and attack. And again, it's a melee attack. I go in the hit column and I roll my attack. Holy moly. 24. Very nice. That's a definite hit. The tree has a AC of 13. And then he's going to roll his damage. That gives 14 damage. I come over to the tree. I click on the tree. Short bow damage 14. Click it. That has been applied. And now we're off. Now I ask Garth, anything else? And he says, I can't do anything. I'm stuck in this stupid entangled spell. But can he do any... He could do cunning action if he could move, but he can't. And so he's just going to stay there. But now it's the end of his turn, so he gets to make a strength saving throw and see if he can get out. He made it. He got above a 13, which is what we said the goal was. And so he is no longer restrained. We click on restrained, end that, and it's the end of his turn. And now it's the awakened tree's turn. Now, awakened trees, they have one action, and that is to slam. And they can slam from 10 feet away, and they can move 20 feet. So this tree is going to move. Oops. Whoa. This tree is going to move 5, 10, 15, 20. Which doesn't get him quite there, but he's getting... Oh, no, you know what it does? He's got a 10-foot span, so he's going to go right after Siva. Because Siva, to him, looks like the weaker of the two, the Tordek and Siva. Tordek is... What did we say Tordek was? He's a barbarian. Yeah, the tree's not going to go after him. He's going to go after the squishy monk, which isn't so squishy. So he gets close enough, which is what he just did when he moved, and he's going to do his slam attack. So you roll the slam attack right in the character sheet, click on the die, and he rolled a 1. So he completely misses Siva and slams the ground, and that's all he can do. So he is done. The next awakened tree shambles up 10, 15, 20. And he is also close enough to Siva, and he's also going to attack Siva by clicking on the dice. And he got a 16, and I believe Siva has an AC of 14, so that is a hit. And he's going to roll his damage, which is considerable, 18. Now at this point, I would ask Siva to deduct 18, so so they actually realize that they're being hit sometimes. But in this case, actually, no. Let's see what it would look like from the player's point of view. To deduct 18, I can either um, click on my hit points and say 18, which defaults to a minus, and I click that, and now I have 6, or plus 18. Oops. Click on this and do a plus 18 to get back to 24. The other way to do it, which is even easier, is to go right into the chat window, right down to the damage, click on the damage, and click on 18, and that applies it. Don't have to do, no typing necessary, just clicks. Siva is now bloodied and hurting badly, and still, I think, confused. Ooh. Siva's in bad shape. But it's no longer the Awakened Tree's turn. It is now Tordek's. And you'll notice how the combat tracker jumped right around the dead pixies. It was their turn next, but they're dead, so obviously they don't get a turn. Tordek, the barbarian, he is raging, and he is going to move right into this tree here and smash it with his great axe by clicking on the to hit column for the great axe. Gives him a 13, and that is enough to hit because they have an AC of 13. I can see that right up here. And so I'm going to go ahead and do my damage. 17 damage for the slash. So I click on the tree, I click on great axe damage, 17, and he's now down to 28. He's actually now bloodied. You can see the ring, the red ring around him. He's down to half his hit points or less, which is the only indicator that the players get that they are wounded. All right, Tordek, good job, but yeah, that's it for you, I think, right? He doesn't have two attacks yet. Yeah, that's really too bad. Any bonus action he can take? No. That's being a barbarian for you. Okay, Siva. Poor confused Siva now needs to roll a d10. The GM, I'm going to scroll up here until I find the confusion and click on it. And then Siva, on the player's side, is going to go ahead and roll her d10. She's going to roll a d10, roll it, and she gets a 10. Oh, that's good news for her, because if I look at my chart, the character can act and move normally as a 9 or 10. So I break the good news to Siva. You can act normally. And Siva says, well, as a monk, I have a number of attacks I can unleash on these trees, but I also kind of want to get the heck out of here as I am hurting badly. I'm trying to decide what Siva would do. And I think if I were really playing Siva, I probably would retreat at this point to not die. But because I want you to see death, I'm going to go ahead and attack with my quarterstaff. So as a monk, I get a couple attacks here. I'm going to run up to this one, and actually I'm going to run around it so that I only get attacked by one tree. That's what I'm hoping. So she runs up here, and she hits it with her quarterstaff, and that is a hit. She then rolls damage, and that's a 4. Is she? She's a tabaxi. Okay. So that's a 4. As the GM, I would click on the tree and account for that damage. And then Siva is going to do a flurry of blows, which gives her 2 more unarmed attacks. So she's going to use a key point. All I did was click the use next to flurry of blows, and that checks off a key point, and it puts it in the chat window here. You can see bonus action flurry of blows, And if anybody wants to, they can click on Flurry of Blows and see immediately after you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point and make 2 unarmed attacks. Great. So she is now going to take 2 unarmed attacks. Right here, she clicks on the 5 next to unarmed attack, and that is definitely a hit. And now she rolls damage for that hit, which is a 5. As the GM, I would click on the tree while she's rolling her next roll and click damage 5 to account for that. Now he's down to only 19. Siva would then attack her final attack with unarmed strike, checking the 2 hit next to it. Wow, and she hits on the 3rd one as well. She's going to roll damage by clicking on the damage next to her monk unarmed strike, and that's another 5 damage bludgeoning. So she just unleashed some pretty awesome strikes that I'm sure you would describe in a very cool way. And then unfortunately she's probably going to die, but that's okay. That's what we want to see. This awakened tree has 14 hit points left. Wow, nice job, Siva. It's now Bolan's turn. Bolan is unencumbered now. He's finally not confused, not entangled, and he is going to go ahead and attack. Actually, he is not. Being a cleric, he is going to cast a spell. He's going to cast Bless. Now we're going to, we scroll down to our spell list, and next to Bless, Bless takes an action to cast, and it is a concentration spell. So we always need to check, is he concentrating on anything else? And I don't see anything here that he's concentrating on. You would see it right next to his name. And so he goes ahead and casts Bless by pressing the button Cast. Now he can cast that as 1st level or 2nd level, and I'm going to click off it and see what does it give me. You can target 1 additional creature. So usually I can do 3. Oh yeah, I'm going to cast that as 2nd level so that I can hit 4 people, or I can bless 4 people. So he cast it as 2nd level. Now what that just did was, now what it should have done, I hadn't reset this guy. What it should have looked like is this. I'm going to delete this. There we go. So when Bolan comes to cast Bless, you'll see that all of his spell slots are empty. He has not yet cast a spell. When he casts Bless by pressing the cast button next to Bless, he's going to cast it as 2nd level, which puts 1 X mark in the 2nd level spell slots. That means he can cast 1 more 2nd level spell, or 1st level as a 2nd level. It also put, you can see in the chat window, cast 2nd level spell, Bless, and it has a spell token, which we don't need because we're all within range. And it has this nice thing, roll +4, condition blessed. But here's the fun part. We can simply, yes, I can simply choose all the people I'm going to do up here in the chart. Like he would tell me, he would say, I'm going to cast Siva and Tordek and Bolan. Actually, he's going to cast everybody but himself and Mordan. He's going to choose all of them, and I click all of those in the combat tracker, and then I come down here and I click on condition bless. And what that does is it shows me Tordek, Siva, Bolan, and Mordan. I can apply the condition bless to all of them in 1 click. Done. Up here in the combat tracker, you'll see now that all 4 of them have bless 10, which means there's 10 more rounds of bless to go. And that cast of bless is complete. Now, before Bolan ends his turn, he is going to run away. And unfortunately, oh, no, I don't want to do that. When you have multiple people selected like this, and you go to move any of them, they'll all move. So you want to, unselect, clear selection, and then, and then move him. So Bolin wants to move, he's going to run away. He's actually going to run up here. But as he moves away, he's only 10 feet away from this tree. And so the tree is going to get an attack of opportunity, unfortunately. Let's hope for Bolin that he doesn't die. So this awakened tree here is going to make an attack of opportunity. And he just does that by taking one of his actions, and which is slam, and rolling for them. He rolled a 15. Unfortunately for Bolin, his AC is 15, which means he just got hit by this awakened tree. And let's hope for him that it's not much. Bolin, you just took 16 points of damage, and you can see he's already at 13, which means Bolin is our first, not casualty, he's just unconscious. Now, he fell unconscious, and unfortunately for him, that means that he's no longer got bless going. So Bolin, we are going to but he had bless going. Let's look at bless for a second. Roll the attack roll or saving throw. Yeah, I didn't roll any saving throw or attack roll. So unfortunately for Bolin and all the other characters, the bless spell is ended. And I click on the bless condition and everybody's row in the combat tracker and end them, because they are no longer blessed, because Bolin is unconscious. Too bad for him. It's the end of Bolin's turn. It is now Mordan's turn. Now Mordan is a giant badger. He's only got 13 points of damage. 13 hit points. But he is going to go running right up to this tree. Now, what I would have done as a real druid is I would have done something like Moonbeam before I changed shape, but he's just going to run up to this tree because he sees that that tree is weakened, and he's going to go ahead and bite the tree twice. We're getting good at this now. We go down into the shape change abilities. We see the bite, and he has multi-attack, so he's going to attack twice. That first bite does not hit. That 11, not going to do it. So he has multi-attack, so we're going to roll again. The second one does. So go ahead and roll damage. He gets a 6. This awakened tree takes 6 points of damage, and he's now down to 8. And I'd now be saying this awakened tree is looking very ragged, and leaves and branches are starting to fall from him. He's looking very hurt. And finally, we're back up to Garth. Again, we just started round 3, because you can see that now. Up here, there's round says 3. You can also see how many rounds the confused state has left. If Siva doesn't save, has 8 more rounds left. And you can see that I can shape change for an hour, and I'm still on Entangle and Confused for 10. Oh, that's not triggering. That's a bug. I found a bug. These are supposed to be counting down. That's okay. Garth, where are you, Garth? Garth, it's Garth's turn, and I don't. Oh, I'm right there, and I'm not entangled, but I do need to move out of here if I want to get out of this of the entangled area. And what is Garth going to do? Yeah, so Garth is a rogue, like we said. This would be 10, 20, 30. Does he have 30? He has 25. That's unfortunate. So if he did this, 10, 15, 20, that would be good enough, and he would be able to attack and do sneak attack. So what Garth is going to do is he's going to use his rapier, not his short bow. So he's going to drop his short bow. So again, he's dropped his dagger and now his short bow, and he's going to pick up his rapier and stab this tree. Before he stabs, he is going to use sneak attack. And sneak attack, we can see that he's got 3 friends around this enemy. So absolutely, he should be able to use sneak attack. You press this button here, and it automatically adds in the extra to your damage. And we're going to attack with our rapier. Ugh. Unfortunately, he only got a 7. So he does not get to roll for damage, which is really unfortunate. And the next is the awakened tree, who's almost dead. He's going to wheel around and see the badger and just stomp on that badger. He slams the badger. The badger is in this state. Mordan has a AC of 10. This 11, even though that's really crappy, did hit him, and it's going to squish him. He does 20 points of damage to Mordan. Now, Mordan only has 11 hit points as a badger. So what this will do when I apply damage, when the player goes and clicks the 20 and then clicks damage 20, it's going to remove all 13 hit points from the badger, revert the shape back to his original shape, and take the rest of the damage off of his hit points for his character. So we click this button, and all of that happened all at once. He now has 17 hit points, and he's reverted back to his original shape. Very cool. All right. That awakened tree is done. The next awakened tree comes next, and he's going to move up here and attack Tordek. He can attack him from 10 feet away, and he's going to slam him. He gets a 25, which absolutely does hit him. 14 points of damage to Tordek, which I can do as the DM by clicking on him and applying 14 points of damage. Tordek is now... Oh, but wait. Reverse that. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to do... No, I'm going to do Tordek, and we're going to give Tordek plus 14, which would give him all of his hit points back. Because he's raging, he has damage resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, poison, and slashing. And if we look at the awakened tree, this is bludgeoning damage. So instead of the full 14, he has resistance, or he only gets 7 hit points of damage. You click on this, so it only goes down to 8 instead of the 1, which we saw before. Great. Okay, it's time to finish off this one tree. Tordek, do your business here. He's going to take his great axe, and he rolls a 16, which absolutely does hit, and that does 16 points of damage to this tree, and that makes this tree dead. And to wrap up, oh, no, we're going to go one more because I want to show you one more thing. Yeah, so that's his turn. Siva is now next, and Siva is going to use her quarter. She's going to do the exact same thing that she did before. She's going to go ahead and hit with her quarterstaff. Oh, actually, what am I doing? Delete that, which you can always do. You can always, if you rolled and you didn't want to, go ahead, delete it out of the chat so that you don't have that. She first has to run down to this tree, which she can do. It's only 17 feet. And then she is going to hit the tree with her quarterstaff, which is a 24. That's a definite hit, and that does 6 points of damage. 6 points of damage. She's then going to, this is Siva, she's then going to do 2 unarmed strikes because she's going to use 1 more key point to do Flurry of Blows. There's the key point used. You can see Flurry of Blows is put down in the chat, which makes it so that I can now do 2 unarmed strikes. 1, That's a hit. Damage 7. I'm going to go ahead and hit damage 7. Back to Siva because she's got one more unarmed strike. It's the 5. That's another hit. Damage of 6. This tree is being pelted by her and is down to 40 hit points already. That's the end of Siva's turn, and now it's Bolan's turn. And Bolan, if you remember, is unconscious. Finally, we get into death saves. To do a death save, when you have 0 hit points, you will see this new bar show up that has a dice at the beginning, and then death saves and fails. It's simple. When it's your turn, you have one thing to do, and that is to hit this one die. He rolled a 12, which is his first save. If you roll a 1, it counts as 2 fails. If you roll a 20, it counts as 2 saves. And this counts them for you. So that, let's just say we went through the next round and he rolled again. And he got another save. He got a 17. Let's go another round and he rolls again. He rolled 3 good rolls in a row and he went, and now he is stable. So at this point, he doesn't have to do death saves, but he still has 0 hit points, and he would need to be healed by someone to get at least 1 hit point to do anything. But at least he's not going to die. If he were to hit all 3, I'm going to simulate what happens when you roll 3 failures. When you hit that last failure, he gets the same death mark that any other creature does, and he shows up here as dead. And you as a DM can deal with that however you want to. You can deal with that crying player or not. Well, it's up to you. Anyway, I'm going to uncheck the dead because he made all 3 saves, and now he's stable. And at that point, when the tree sees that he's just not going to win, all of these guys are about to turn on him, the tree is going to move back into the woods. Siva would get a attack of opportunity, of course, but we're going to skip over that. And the encounter would be completed. And at this point, maybe the tree ant says, enough. You've showed me enough of your powers, or you've done enough damage, or okay, I believe you. You're worthy. Whatever you need for the story. And the tree ant would say, fine, you may pass. And that finally would move these characters on past the end. But the last thing to do is to finish up your encounter. So at this point, I would click the finish button, and the finish button allows you to very nicely clean up your map. You can click on experience points here, and that will dole out experience points to your players that are equal to all the experience points of the monsters that have died. So in this case, for each one of the players, they'd each get 220 hit points. And then at the bottom, there's combatants, and you can check these combatants to keep them on the map. If you leave them unchecked, they will be removed from the map. The map will be cleaned. So if there's bodies that you want to remind them that they can go loot or whatever, you might want to go ahead and keep them on the map. But if you keep them on the map, it does change the experience points. So only do a finish encounter when you're really done with everything on the map and they're ready to move on to the next scene or encounter. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and clean up everything. The only thing I'm going to keep is I'm going to grant treasure first. Along with the tree ant, he had one thing of treasure. So if I click on grant treasure, I can see that there were 10 gold pieces and oak heart seed, which is something we made up in the other tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and click all of it, and I'm going to grant it. When I grant it, it gets put, I believe, into the shared treasure for the group, and we'll see that in a second. That's been granted, and I'm not going to keep anything, and I'm going to save this encounter to the log. I make sure that's checked, and then I say okay. So what that just did is it removed everything from the map, even the tree ant and the treasure. It granted the treasure. If we go to like Garth, let's say, and we go to shared treasure, you'll see each one of the players can look in this shared treasure, and they can distribute. Like if you click on this and distribute, it'll distribute 2 gold pieces to each one of them. Go ahead, distribute. That's been distributed. Each one got 2 gold pieces. You can see that in your chat window. And then if I guess I'm looking at Garth right now, I could click on this and claim it. And claiming it puts it into there's no more treasure, so I can close that. It puts it into my equipment, which I should see here. Yeah, Oakheart Seed. And finally, we're ready to move on. And at that point, I'd say you start moving through the trees, through the forest, onto the next encounter. And I might load a different map and huddle the characters there just to give them something to look at. They need to go rest. Maybe they're going to go rest. That's the next thing they're going to do. Oh man, we can do it all. We can do it all right now. Let's say they do a short rest. To do a short rest or a long rest, each character will go on their character sheet and click the rest button up here. It then gives you the choice to do a short rest or a long rest. And they are different, so you need to choose. In this case, we're going to do a short rest first. You click on short rest, and I am on Mordan right now, and Mordan has 17 hit points. And so you can see if he spends a hit die, he'll get some hit points back. So he spent 1 hit die, he got 6 hit points back, and it gives him 23 hit points. He's going to save them just in case they get another short rest. So he's going to save the next one. And the other thing that he's going to get by doing a short rest, you can see here, features recovered will be wild shape. He did that 1 wild shape, and you can see on his character sheet back here that he does have that checked off once. He's only allowed 2 wild shapes per day or per long rest. Actually, I guess per short rest. So once he does his short rest, you'll see that he now has 23 hit points and his wild shape is back. One of the things he doesn't get back when he does a short rest down here, his spell slot. He used 1 spell slot here for 2nd level, and it is still checked. He does not get that back until he does a long rest, which we'll do in a second. All the other characters are going to do theirs. Bolin was he was stable, but he had 0 hit points, and he's just going to lie there. And I'm not sure if you actually recover hit points if you're just stable. But let's say that somebody healed him a little bit, and then he's going to do a short rest. He's going to spend all 3 of his hit dice. 1, 2, 3. He gets up to 19 hit points, and he would get his Channel Divinity back, but he never used it, so he does his short rest. One thing here, Siva has a confused condition. The GM can see it up here. He can see that confused 7 is hit. And if Siva goes and looks at her character sheet, then you'll see that there is this condition here, and for 7 rounds she is confused unless she kicks it some other way. And the other thing that she has here that she's checked off is 1 key point. So, whatever she did, flurry of blows, one of those things, all uses key points. And some of those will be recovered when we do a short rest. So she clicks on her short rest button. She comes in here. She's going to spend some hit dice to get back up to 22. She's going to go ahead and spend all of them to get to 24. And you'll see this short rest also will give her back her key points. So she does her short rest, and you'll see her key points are 0 now, or full, and she has all of her hit points. So she is happy too. Let's go to Tordek. Tordek was hurting a little bit. He's going to do his short rest. He's going to spend 1 hit die, get all of his hit points back. Boy, he only has 15. as a barbarian. Yikes. The other thing, so one thing to notice here is he did not get his rage back because that comes back on a long rest. So I think everyone's, yeah, we've done everyone's short rest. So I just wanted to show you, like Siva here, she used her her hit die during one short rest. If she were to take another short rest later, you'd see that she has 0 left. Those are kept, we keep track of those. And then later in the day, let's say they finally make it to their little hotel or their little tavern, and they settle down for a nice 8-hour snooze, and they're able to do a long rest. They go and click on long rest, which looks very similar, but there's no you can't spend your hit dice here because you're going to get all your hit points back. But there is one rule change here, or rule difference for some people. They regain all their hit dice during long rest, and some of the rules, some people use the rule where you gain half of your hit dice. So you can choose which one. Everyone should do obviously the same thing, and you'll see that Siva will actually get her key points and her wizard. I'm not sure what that means. All of her things back here when she does a long rest. So that didn't really do much for her because she hadn't used anything special. But it's going to do something for Tordek. So if we come over to Tordek and we see that he's got 1 rage, when he does his long rest, he's going to click on long rest. That is going to clear out his rage. So anyway, everyone clicks on their long rest or their short rest, and they're ready. They wake up in the morning refreshed and ready to go, and we can close this video now because you know a lot more than you did. I hope that this helped. I hope that you were able to get something out of it, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.